Hi, my name's Michele Saumberfield, and my soul was Marilyn Monroe's during its last past life. I thought that I would just take a time to make a short video. I was just thinking about a lot of different things that come up when I'm talking to different people on the reincarnation sites. And I also realized when I made my last video that I kind of held this one picture I was trying to show everybody, and I kind of didn't hold it center enough, and so I think that it kind of really didn't look like I wanted it to, or you didn't see what I was trying to point out. So I'm going to try to see if I can do this here. This is me getting into the limo when I was going off to get married. This was December 26th, 1989. And actually, the guy I married and we stayed in a really nice hotel, but we didn't stay in Caesar's Palace, and I kept saying, oh, I want to go there, I want to go there. There's actually a story in my book about how we did end up going there the night that we got married and what happened, but I have to say I loved the ambiance in Caesar's Palace. It was truly my favorite. I don't know if it was just psychological. Like I said before, I'm sure I was Cleopatra during one of my past lives. Of course, I've met other people online who say the same thing. They believe they were Cleopatra, and we've exchanged stories. It was all very friendly. We disagreed about a lot of things. But, when you have a reincarnation situation, you just kind of gotta expect the unexpected and be civil and kind and hear other people out. And, you'll tell your story, they'll tell theirs. You may not agree on different things, but, why fight during this lifetime over something that happened during another lifetime, right? Because the here and now is what matters the most, right? So I thought, in my book, it's called Marilyn, Not Just Another Girl, The Myth About Sleeping in the Nude. I do talk about my own current lifetime, and I intersperse it with little stories or thoughts about Marilyn's lifetime. I specifically did write the book to talk about how I died during my last past life, but I just talk about little ponderings and different things from that lifetime, and then I talk about some of my other past lives a little bit. I just kind of hit upon them. But I thought, I do mention a couple things about the lifetime that was just previous to Marilyn's, but I don't talk about that one at length. And so I thought, well, maybe I should talk about the lifetime that was right before Marilyn's. Maybe I should get that one out in the open. So what I remember is I was a girl. I think I lived to be about 20. I don't know if I lived to be 21 or not. And I know I was in another country. I'm not sure which one. And I know my first name started with an I, and my last name was a hyphenated last name, and the second part of the last name was Moore, M-O-O-R-E, which is simple. But I don't know what the first part was. It sounded, I don't know if it was Russian or German or what, but it was something a little more difficult to say and spelled than more. So I remember I had a sister who was maybe like 2 years younger, I'm guessing. She was a little bit younger than I was. And I remember one night when I was pretty little, I woke up, there was a thunderstorm, and my sister and I were sleeping in the same room. And we were very wealthy, and so we were in a nice, big, beautiful home. But I woke up because I heard my mother and father yelling really loudly downstairs in the kitchen. My sister could sleep through anything. She could sleep through the storm, she could sleep through the yelling. But I tiptoed down the stairs and kind of stayed on the stairs, and I heard them yelling. My mother was a famous, well, I don't know if famous, but a popular opera singer in the area, and she was very beautiful. And my father was very jealous of all the attention she got, and so they were arguing about things like that. And I literally heard my father kill my mother. He stabbed her with a knife, and I ran back upstairs, and I never, the whole rest of my life, ever said anything to anybody about it. But I always knew that my father had killed my mother. And then my father ran out, got an alibi, and it was like the maid or the cook who found my mother. And so I kept that secret. I had a very strange relationship with my father. I remember my father, he was just very quiet. He didn't interact with me a lot. He was there a lot, but he didn't interact with me a lot. So it was my father, my sister, me. And I remember feeling really hurt. Like I wanted his approval, his attention. I wanted him to want to talk to me. And I remember thinking, is this because he might suspect that maybe I know something? Or is this because I remind him of my mother? Like maybe he thinks I look like my mother or something. I don't know. I don't actually remember what his relationship with my sister was like, so I don't know if it was just me being sensitive or if for some reason he treated me different. I don't know. I just remember always thinking I wanted more attention, which is what's really kind of sad, because if you think that I went into Marilyn's lifetime and then didn't have a father present, it's like it happened again, you know? What I remember is I was really talented. Okay, I remember that I was a cheerleader. I remember I was in the ballet at school, but it was like, I remember my legs were proportionally a little too short, so I was never out front in the ballet. It was like I was really good, I had a lot of rhythm, I was really coordinated, but I was always in the back in the chorus. But I had a naturally great operatic voice, and I figured I got that from my mother. So again, maybe I reminded my father of my mother. I took lessons, but I didn't really need to take lessons to be good. I just had a natural, beautiful, powerful operatic voice. I remember I really wanted attention from someone really badly. So when I was a teenager, I put a lot of makeup on, and I just left at night. And my dad didn't seem to care. I remember going to like a bar that was in a big fancy hotel in the city, whatever city it was we were in, and I met a guy who was a doctor. He was from another town, and he was married, and he had a little son, like a baby son. I don't know how many years I was with him. I think I was with him a couple years, but I remember we used to meet, go to a hotel. A lot of times we'd do stuff, but we kind of had not a lovey-dovey relationship. I don't know if guilt was the thing or what it was that kept us from having a really passionate relationship, but we would talk to each other, and, you know, he had planned to come into town again sometime, and we would get together, and, you know, I'd put on lots of makeup to try to look older, and nobody seemed to care what I was doing. And so I remember I had this strange relationship affair with this guy who really wasn't available. I remember that my family, and I don't know if it was just my dad or if there was like an aunt or uncle, I'm not really sure. I remember they kept trying to push me to get together with this really handsome guy who came from a lot of money. But the guy and I just always knew we were just going to be friends. Like, we got along well, we would laugh, ha ha ha, they're trying to match make us. But we always knew that wasn't going to happen, and we would walk around his estate, and he had like big stone walls all around his house, and beautiful vines going up the walls, beautiful garden. And we just always knew we were never going to be a thing, but we would humor people and just spend a little time together, you know, because they were trying to push us together. But he was very nice. I actually had a boyfriend for a short period of time in my 20s during my Michele life who kind of reminds me of that guy from that lifetime right before Marilyn's. Now, how did I look during that lifetime? Well, I can tell you that there were a couple kinds of birth defects that ran in our family. One was funny looking feet. One was birthmarks, like maybe here or on your back or something. My sister and I had some glitchy things. I don't want to get into that. Even just thinking about it just kind of makes me uncomfortable. But, you know, we each had some funny marks on us. But we were both pretty. We both had, you know, sort of bluey green eyes and blonde hair. I remember I had a terrible overbite, though. It was bad. Like, when I'd open up my mouth, you could just see my teeth. I really needed braces, but, you know, that was before braces were a thing. But I was considered pretty, and what I remember is I really wanted to get my father's attention. And so I got the chance because I had such a great operatic voice. I don't know how old I was. I would say I was, I don't know, maybe 19, 20, something like that. I think I might have been like 20 when I died. But I remember there was this guy who's considered like the star opera singer of some areas, some surrounding areas. And he was brought in to do a theatrical production, and he was going to be the star. And I got a really large part in this extravaganza, and I was excited. I thought, oh, I'm going to make a name for myself. Everyone will see that I excel at something, and my dad will finally talk to me a lot. He'll finally really like me. Okay, now the kitty cats are milling all around here. Come on, kitties. Okay, no fighting, though. Mama loves. You're okay, baby. Okay. Curious kitty Catsby. All right. Okay, talk to the people. Okay, so what I remember is it was the night of the performance, the first night, opening night, and this guy, this performer, really handsome guy, great opera singer, he falls when he's making his entrance. He showed up drunk. And he picks himself up, and we go on with the play. But, oh, what's he doing? What you doing, kitty? He's just looking at things. Okay. There's little Sweetie Pie. Look at Sweetie. Okay. So, anyway, so he falls, but he picks himself up. So we get on with the play, and I'm thinking, oh, well, you know, we salvaged it. It'll still be really good. Hi, kitty. But the next day in the newspapers, critics said, you know, basically everyone in the production should just, you know, never work again. They just panned us all. And I have absolutely no idea. I have absolutely no idea if they panned us because they were so disappointed in him or if they thought I was terrible too. And I remember being so upset and trying to talk to my lover about it, and he could care less because he was all preoccupied with his life and his responsibilities. And I remember I couldn't talk to my dad, and I was really sad. And I just kind of had that, like, all or nothing frame of mind. And I remember deciding, I'm going to kill myself. They'll never miss me. I'm going to kill myself. And so I took a great big knife out of our house, and I remember running down to this athletic field, which is where I was a cheerleader when I was in high school. I don't know if it was like a soccer field or what it was, but it was some kind of athletic field. And I remember there was sort of like this, I don't know if it was a tunnel exactly, but something that had a slight bit of a roof over it. It was by the field, and it was a really rainy night. And I remember going there and stabbing myself. And I thought, oh, you know, like Romeo and Juliet, you know, you stab yourself and it's really fast and it's romantic and everyone will miss you and care and all that. It took me so gosh darn long to die, and it was painful. And I remember heaving, and I just remember my muscle here and going up and down and being in pain. It wasn't like I thought it was. I eventually died. I don't know how long it took, but, you know, I've always wondered if someone found me, because someone had to have found me, did they think I was murdered, or did they know I killed myself? Like, I don't know. I don't know if they would have known that I did it to myself, or if they would have thought someone did it to me. I don't know. Which is what's really strange, because I had a medium say to me once, why did you choose to die the way you did when you were Marilyn? And I thought, well, I don't feel like I chose that, but I thought, okay, a lot of people don't know if I killed myself or if I was murdered. And then I thought about the lifetime right before Marilyn's, and I thought, well, I wonder if people wondered if I killed myself or if I was murdered. So maybe since I did what I did during the lifetime before Marilyn's, maybe then afterwards is kind of like, I don't want to say punishment, but it's kind of like, oh, now this is out of your control and people don't know if it's suicide or murder. And, you know, now somebody did it to you, but before you did it to yourself. I also feel like I had a lot of talent and I threw it away during the lifetime before Marilyn's. Hi, kitty. Choppa, chop, chop. I feel like I threw it away. You know, I threw my talent away. And so maybe that's why when I was in Marilyn's life, I had to fight so much for respect. You know, because being beautiful and being a sex symbol is exciting and will make you popular in a way. But as much as it's nice to have that like immediate response and that ooh la la, there's also the people who are the predators and the people who think they own you because you're looking available, you know. So I had to fight for respect. I also think it's really funny when I read things and people will say things like, oh, Marilyn read so much. She was really smart. And I think, well, how dumb did people think I was? It's like if I even just pick up a book, all of a sudden they think, oh, she can read? Oh, she was smart. And it's like, God, how dumb do people think I was? You know, they act so surprised. But, you know, I guess it was a sign of the time, you know. You weren't allowed to be smart and sexy. I don't know. Maybe that's what they thought in the 40s and 50s and, you know, going into the 60s. I'm not really sure. Kitty. So anyway, that was the lifetime I remember right before Marilyn's. And I remember kind of having that, well, I'm going to show everybody, you know, they're going to miss me, and how dare people ignore me, and how dare people critique me, kind of thing, you know. And I think that it also speaks to the idea from one lifetime to the next, you know, because I've gone through a lot of strange things during various lifetimes that I remember. You really have to have a sense of your own self-worth. For instance, during one of the other lifetimes that I write about in my book, Marilyn, Not Just Another Girl, I talk about a bunch of stuff that happened in my life, but one of the things that I didn't talk about was at the beginning of the 1800s, like maybe somewhere between 1820 and 1842 or something, I was a woman named Charlotte. And I talk at length about Charlotte in my book, but I don't talk about everything. And one of the things I remember is I wanted to be a published author like, you know, Poe or Bronte. And because of a series of circumstances that happened to me that derailed what I thought I'd be doing in my life, I was very depressed a lot, and I functioned kind of in a state of depression. Like I did stuff, but I had a lot of resentment built up inside me. And I, as Michele, look back on it, and I understand where I was coming from, because a lot of bad things happened to me at a young age then. But I see how my resentment led to a constant state of depression, and then that depression kept me from taking actions that maybe could have made me happier. Like I wanted to be a fiction writer and be published, and I was really smart. I had to drop out of school because of a bunch of circumstances, and so I was depressed. But because I ended up marrying a man who ran the general store, I probably could have gotten paper and pencils and different supplies and still made an effort to be the writer I wanted to be. But because I was so depressed, I just thought, oh, everything's no use and I'll never get to do what I want to do. And so I let my own resentments and depressions get the best of me and kind of undo part of my dreams. And then as it turned out, I died at a young age and never did what I wanted to anyway. But I think to myself about how during that lifetime, I wanted to be a writer, and that didn't happen. During my Michele life, I've never wanted to be a writer. Not really, but then I ended up writing a book anyway to talk about how Marilyn really died. And I feel like I'm kind of fulfilling my karma for both Marilyn and Charlotte, while at the same time doing something new in my own life, right? You know, learn to do something new that you just didn't think you would undertake, right? So I guess what I'm just trying to say is that sometimes in a lifetime, you have to truly learn to make lemonade out of lemons, as other people have said. Of course, that's not an original saying, but you have to know what your own self-worth is, and you have to find a way to deal with pressures and deal with decisions that are hard to make and deal with other people's lack of approval and other people's lack of enthusiasm if something really means a lot to you. And so I think maybe the reason Marilyn had to fight so hard for respect, and she had to really, really be committed to staying in showbiz and trying to be seen as a serious dramatic actress, was because maybe I squandered some things in some previous lifetimes. I don't know. But, you know, I do think about other lifetimes besides Marilyn's. And I think that's important. You know, I want people to know that as much as I do talk about Marilyn's lifetime, I do remember other lifetimes. I remember a bunch of other lifetimes. I remember a lifetime where I was a Siamese twin sister. I remember a lifetime where I was a boy actor. I remember a lifetime where I was a redheaded actress, and I ended up dying on stage because of a freak accident. And actually what I remember during that lifetime is I was at this point in my life where I had to make some big decision, and I don't know what it was, but I think my father and some guy I was in love with were kind of pulling me in two different directions at the time. And the weird thing is I ended up dying on stage because of a freak accident and something falling on my head. And so I never actually had to make that decision that was so hard for me to make. But anyway, I remember a bunch of other lifetimes. I remember a lifetime where I was this really pretty girl who got kidnapped by some handsome guy who just kind of hauled me around in a caravan. And it might sound romantic, but it wasn't. I mean, it was like I felt, you know, estranged from my family. I felt like I had no real purpose. I felt very bored. I didn't know where I was going. I think I was strangled during that lifetime. It's a little bit hazy, but I think I was strangled, and I was pretty young when I died during that lifetime. I remember a lifetime